So PAX West 2022 just took place and I went to it. I go to PAX every year, PAX East, PAX West. There used to be a PAX South, but due to obviously global events, there's no more PAX South anymore. But I did go to PAX West last year for its return. PAX West 2021 was the first PAX West since PAX East of 2020. And again, because of all the global issues that have been going on, events had pretty much been put on hold. So I went this year for 2022 and I went as a content creator. So I was invited to meet with a lot of the companies and gaming studios, accessory makers, and it was actually really cool. It was a very fun trip and I saw some really cool games and new things coming out that I'm just really looking forward to. One of the first companies that reached out to me was AudioTechnica. Now they have a whole line of microphones and headsets and all kinds of gaming accessories. Now I've been using AudioTechnica gear for years. I still use it to this day, especially as a music producer when I produce all my tracks, mastering and things like that. I also use a few of their other accessories for other streams that I do too. So I'm hoping with the invitation by them that we could look forward to seeing some of their accessories so I could do some reviews for those right here on the channel. Now, one of the first studios that I met with was Chronospace, and they make a game called Cypher's Game. It's a debut game from a new studio called the Office of New Technologies, belonging to the Polish Institute of National Remembrance. So it's got a lot of history, and I gotta tell you, I fell in love with this game right away. And not only that, I really enjoyed meeting with the people from Poland who were presenting the game. It's a first-person puzzler where you are a soldier trying to break ciphers during the Polish Bolshevik War in like the 1920s. The point of it is to solve these ciphers so you can destroy the Soviet train. It's actually a very cool game, and I had a really good time meeting with the studio. I was actually invited to this party that I didn't even know existed. It happens every year. It's a Polish party, and let me tell you, the food was really good. They had pierogies. And I had a great time there. And the people that I met from Poland were so incredibly kind. Another studio that I met with was Chroma Gains. Now they had actually a couple of games that I thought were really cool. One of the games that they were really showing off was a game called Dust Neon. This game is a roguelike like twin shooter that's set in like a futuristic version of the Wild Wild West. It's sort of top down, asymmetrical, but it actually looked like a lot of fun. But the game that they had that really caught my interest was a game called The Last Case of Benedict Fox. And it's described as you diving into this world of like secret organizations and forbidden rituals. And you play as Benedict Fox, who's bound to this demon companion, and you dive into the minds of these victims to find clues on how to bring down these organizations. It's actually really cool, and apparently it's going to be on Game Pass in 2023. So definitely expect us to play that on the podcast, Zeba Games. Another game that I was invited to check out was a game called It's a Wrap. Now, I am a big fan of the 80s, and this game is actually quite unique. It's a puzzle game about making movies in 1980s Hollywood. So you have to figure out like timing for like props and actors, and there's even a timeline in the game where you can do editing, back things up, redo things. It was just such a unique game. When I saw it, I asked them, I was like, is that a timeline in the game? And they're like, yeah, and they explained the game to me. And it's definitely a game that I'm looking forward to playing because I love the 80s, I love movies, and put all that in a video game, sign me up. Another really cool thing I was invited to was I actually got to see the premiere of Cyberpunk Edge Runners. I got to see the first 2 episodes before they were shown on Netflix. Now this is actually on Netflix now. I think it aired on September 13th, but I was invited to see the screening of the first 2 episodes. And I gotta tell you, this is the kind of anime that's right up my alley. I'm a big fan of the whole cyberpunk, mecha, that type of style of anime that they just don't really make anymore. They don't really make this style that I like. I'm a big fan of Ghost in the Shell. Appleseed is my favorite manga of all time, but they just don't make stuff like that anymore. In comes Cyberpunk Edge Runners, which is right up my alley. So if you haven't checked this out, I suggest you watch it if this is kind of your thing. Seeing the anime actually inspired me to start playing the game again, so I restarted Cyberpunk 2077 because despite the rough rollout, I think it's a really good game. Another studio that reached out to me was Chroma Gains. They're known for the Dungeon Defender series, and I got to see and play Dungeon Defenders Going Rogue. Dungeon Defenders is actually a pretty popular series. When I was going live while I was at PAX with my community on Twitch, a lot of them knew the game, and I had actually never played it before. So I got to play it for the first time, and I gotta tell you, it's actually a lot of fun. So if you don't know about the game Dungeon Defenders Going Rogue, it combines like roguelite and RPG and tower defense in this like really action-packed game. The graphics look really good, and in this crazy free-for-all game, you and 3 other players can just jump in and play and fight off like hordes of enemies. Another one of my favorite genres is like, sort of the giant robot Gundam mobile suit type of games, as well as anime. I still have my copy of Gundam Rise from the Ashes, side story 0079 from my Sega Dreamcast. I still have this game, and I used to play this game quite a bit. So I've been a fan of like Gundam and mech or mobile suit type of games. So enter a game called Metalcore. One of the really good things about being a content creator and getting a media badge at these events is that I get to often go behind the scenes into like private rooms where I get to talk and meet with the developers. They walk me through the game, they tell me about the game, they share with me a lot of information that I probably would have never known had I not had that media badge. So Metalcore is an NFT-based, open-world, mechanized combat game. You can control mechs of different types, you control aerial vehicles to tanks and all kinds of other things. The more you fight, you can win vehicles, you can get materials and craft your own vehicles, even as infantry or piloting the mechs or the tanks or the aircrafts. You can actually play PvE or PvP in this like rich, beautiful environment that I actually got to play firsthand. And while you play the game, you actually get rewards like through playing missions or in PvE or PvP. Another thing about the game is that if you're not really interested in combat or battling, you can become a baron and just recruit people to fight for you. And as a baron, you can like acquire land and even mine for resources, which you'll need to customize and build your own ships and mechs and tanks. It's quite detailed. You can own your own game assets and get blueprints to build new vehicles. And every blueprint or NFT that you create belongs to you and belongs to you only. Now, full disclosure, I do not have NFTs, or I'm not involved with NFTs, but it's very interesting to see how they're using them in this game, so you can get your own assets and vehicles, and then you own these things. They're your customized own vehicles, which I think is kind of cool. Now, I'm staying in touch with this company, so hopefully I can learn more about the game and hopefully play the game on my Twitch channel and really find out what it's really all about. I can already tell you that in the private time that I had to play the game, it's actually pretty amazing. There were so many different games that I wish I could fit in this video, but I may end up talking about them in other videos. But one of the games that I really want to talk about is a game called Wanted Dead. This is another game that I got to meet with the developers and play the game firsthand. It's from the same developers that made Ninja Gaiden and Dead or Alive. It's a game that follows the week in the life of the zombie unit, which is like this elite Hong Kong police force. The whole idea is you're trying to uncover this huge corporate conspiracy, and you play as Lieutenant Hannah Stone. The whole thing about it is it's set in the 80s, but it's sort of like this futuristic 80s. It's like a hack and slash, but you have like all these special moves and certain weapons. You have like assault rifles and SMGs and LFGs. And because it's a third-person shooter, it has many things that are familiar, like cover mechanics that you would find in like Division or Gears of War. There's a whole storyline with this whole cyberpunk vibe. And one of the really cool things is the finishers. It's got some really cool animated finishers. This is one of the games that I got to play firsthand and sit with the developers and talk about it. So it looks like it's gonna be a lot of fun. And this is definitely a game that I'm not only looking forward to playing, but I'm definitely gonna be streaming this one. And I will more than likely do a Let's Play that I'll throw up on the YouTube channel as well. One of the coolest things that happened when I was at PAX was that Nintendo had this huge booth. And if you've ever seen Nintendo's booth at any gaming convention, they always bring it. And this time they were promoting Splatoon 3. I had seen the booth when I got there on Friday, but I didn't have my camera with me. So on Saturday, I had to go get some footage of this booth. Unfortunately, you couldn't get in the booth if you didn't register. People registered and there were lines outside of the booth, and they were able to get in and play Splatoon. I was so fascinated by the booth that Saturday while I was filming, one of the guys who was in charge of designing the booth asked me if I wanted to come in and film the booth. So he actually went to security, they opened the rope, and they let me in to film the inside, and it was really cool. I mean, considering nobody else was in there filming, I felt very lucky to be able to go in and film just this awesome booth. It was probably the coolest booth that I had seen there. There was a lot of really cool stuff there. There were some things I didn't expect to see, like McDonald's had a booth there. AMD had a really huge booth, and they had a bunch of gaming and competition going on. There was also a huge Pokemon Play Lab booth. Again, people lined outside around that booth to get in and play it. A game that I had played earlier in this year called System Shock. Intel had like this really amazing booth there. And One Piece Odyssey had this huge wall of a booth. It was just like nothing I had really seen before. Another really good game that I played was called Sherwood Extreme. And it's basically like you're just taking out enemies. It was actually really a lot of fun. Another game I'm really looking forward to playing once it's available. Dead Island 2 had a really cool and very busy booth there as well. Goat Simulator 3 had a booth there that was also very busy. I don't know if you've ever played those games, but they're just crazy. Another game I got to meet with and the maker of the game 30XX, which is basically like a rogue Mega Man. It was a lot of fun, especially for a lot of you gamers that like the nostalgia of the old style classic retro games. 30XX should bring that vibe back for you. Overall, I had a great time at PAX West. I will be attending PAX East and hopefully E3 next year, but definitely PAX West again next year. I highly suggest if you haven't been to a PAX event and you're really into video games, I highly suggest you check it out. Even for just one day. Just a little advice, some of the best days to go are on Sundays, or if it's on a Monday, that Monday, because there aren't as many people there. And if you want to get in and play some of the games, the traffic is a little lower and you won't have as much wait time. Saturdays are usually the busiest times. I personally like that because I like all the people and the hustle and bustle, but I highly suggest you check out a PAX event if you don't already go. It's a lot of fun. It's a good place to see some of the new games that are coming out and even meet with the developers that make the games and get a little bit of a behind the scenes action. There's also tons of merch and accessories and all kinds of other things that you can buy. And it's just a lot of fun, especially if you're really into video gaming like I am. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I've got a lot more stuff coming up pretty soon. So again, thanks, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya.